Mindhunter. Now, Mindhunter is a... well, I don't want to use the word serial killer, because they don't yet. In the first episodes of the series, and so far Matt has watched 2, and I've watched 4.
It's a crime drama. It's a police procedural. That's what it is.
Well,
isn't it?
The main premise is that it's mostly based around Holden Ford, who is a young FBI agent who is working in. Firstly, when you're introduced to him, he's working in the whole area of hostage negotiation, and you actually see him coming in and helping a hostage negotiation scene. And he's going around various police forces or FBI agencies and teaching people skills. And what he's noticing...
Well, no. You missed a whole chunk there. Okay.
He then realises that a lot of the cases that he's dealing with deal with very sociopathic people. And he asks to be put on he wants to investigate more about the behaviours of these people. Through that, he ends up partnering with...
Gary, you've missed a whole chunk of stuff. He's a hostage negotiator, but they take him off the hostage negotiating, put him in the classroom, and he's really bored by it, isn't he? And that's then why, eventually, he's paired up with the guy you're going to talk about now.
So he ends up working with Bill Tench, who is also going around the country, but he's working more with these behavioural clients.
Because he was teaching at Quantico. He was based in Quantico, Holden was. He wasn't going round the country, which is what you were saying.
Okay. Sorry, I did mistakenly. You're right. I meant to say he was going around the FBI at Quantico, not the country. And this is before the days when you got profilers or things like that. You know, if you ever watched The X-Files, you'll know that Mulder was originally called a profiler, where he would analyse information and come up with a fairly kind of tight description of the kind of person they would be looking for without giving names. You know, you hear the thing like 18 to 34 male, strange relationship with his mother.
Like the first episode, I felt, after watching, because I've watched the 2, you've watched the 4, and the first episode I found could have been combined with the second episode into maybe like a 90-minute pilot, and I don't think you would have missed much at all, because I think at the end of the second episode, you're almost like, this is the start of the series.
Yeah, that's why I was going to go on and say what happened in the second episode, because really I think of them more as a combined thing, because you're right. The first episode is really set up. In fact, I suppose the one thing really that I hadn't mentioned is that he meets his girlfriend, who is a psychology major at a local university. Yeah, some of what she said, it starts to sort of pique his interest in the fact that psychology may have a big part to play.
Yeah, she's more sort of sociology, isn't she? She looks at sort of like, as you say, like psychology and things like that, things he wasn't aware of. And it's that combined with sort of, because the very first scene is like him doing a hostage negotiation and it being like this guy thinking like he's invisible, isn't he? And he sort of strips off and everything like that. And I was thinking, Netflix, 2 minutes in, we're already seeing genitalia. But it is sort of, you get the measure of it. But I thought for a first episode, it didn't really. And the last sort of 15 minutes is where you see this sort of partnership between Bill and Holden and Bill sort of take place. They sort of go on the road and they do these lectures, and he's really obsessed with Charlie Manson and things like that. And then they encounter like this guy who says, we've got this similar case, and can you look into this? And then Holden goes, no, we can't. And it just felt all a bit sort of, well, what was the point of that hour? Because I didn't feel like, I got a little bit of things, but it felt very sort of by the numbers. Here we are now in Quantico, here we are now, he's meeting this guy, here we are, he's meeting his girlfriend. And then you had to get to the second episode before you sort of, again, got more introduction, and at the end. So yeah, carry on now, sorry.
Well, I would agree that the first episode is there to draw you in. It's not there to give away what the programme is about. And I think one of the features of Mindhunter is how slow and deliberate it starts off by being. I mean, obviously, I've watched 4 episodes. It does begin to pick up a bit of pace at some point. But this is not your typical crime drama. There's no one case. As they keep going around the country giving these talks, they begin to encounter cases which fit the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
And then other characters and things start to come into it. But I think what is very good is that it builds up those 2 main characters quite well, so that once they start getting into the cases, you know a little bit about the personality of this guy, Holden Ford, played by Jonathan Jonathan Groff.
He's quite sort of fresh-faced and quite, he plays
very much your white meat. And I mean,
wet behind the ears.
He's a white meat G-man. He's very much your FBI model agent at the start. So he's very sexually naive as well, which at the beginning you're thinking, why are you showing me that? But as then again, you begin to understand how he needs to understand the cases and the people, how that's holding him back a bit. Bill Tench plays your kind of more very gruff kind of old school. But he is very, I mean, and a couple of times he stands up for Bill Holden, which is
at the end. And an interesting thing is that this is all based on, like, true events. It's based on a book written by two guys, John E. Douglas, who is the basis for the Holden 4 character, and all of certainly the serial killer they meet in episode 2, Ed Kemper, the co-ed killer, who killed these students and did he have sex with his mum's head? I remember correctly?
That's what they implied, yes.
Yes. Well, they didn't imply it. They didn't imply it. They went. He went into great detail about having sex with her neck.
All I'm saying is he didn't show it. That's all I cared about.
But as you say, these interviews that he has with these serial killers give him a great insight into the criminal mind. And at the time, the boss is the boss who's quite against this and sort of talks him down when he finds out that he's been talking to Kemper, and that's why Tench has to stand up to him and go, no, hang on, he's got a lot of ideas. I don't always agree with him, but give us a chance.
A lot of people see Kemper as he'll always say what you want him to say. He loves talking to agents. But actually, the information they're getting out of him, it seems very good. It gives them that insight into it gives them an insight to a killer that they've at this point not really been able to do. I think the one thing is, if you're a fan of like Criminal Minds or some sort of serial killer program, but take it back 30 years. Don't think about how they don't even use the word serial killer, as I say. They don't use profiling. You've got to go back to kind of pre-Silence of the Lambs almost. What really works is the music. They've really done a good job of bringing it. I
mean, I watched episode 2 last night before I went to bed, and I've still got Psycho Killer by
and of course, what a great song to use in this sort of thing. Yeah. They've got the venues right. It looks great. There are little things which I think Fincher always brings to it. The fact that and you'll know in certain television programs they tell you where they are by a graphic on screen. The graphic feels
that annoyed me a little bit. I don't know. It just felt, I felt like, do I need this all the time?
Well, but for a show that travels, I think it's a good thing. You need to know where in the country you are to understand a little bit about it.
I get what you're saying, but I
difference of opinion. So overall, do you think you'll be sticking with this? I mean, I'm guessing by the fact episode 2, you're kind of hooked.
Yeah, someone put on Twitter that there was, Episode 2 was vastly superior to Episode 1. I wouldn't say that. I found both of them quite easy to watch. Yeah. One thing that you didn't mention, which I quite liked, was the sort of humour that it had. It was quite funny. I thought it was funnier than it would be. Well, no, I did find myself laughing quite a few times. Again, it's the interplay between Holden and Bill, like, as you say, like the sort of naive, what's the word? I had a word in my head then, now it's gone, sort of the forward-thinking type. Aspirational, I suppose you could say, police officer who wants to push things forward. I mean, the interplay there, the sort of looks that Tench gives, I thought it was very funny. There's that sequence where, again, Fincher's directorial, where you just see them on the road constantly. It's really, the hotel rooms, the airport benches, the planes, he's asleep on another guy. Like I did find it quite fun. I mean, it's not a comedy, but there were some quite moments of humour which did make me laugh.
And even in the interviews with Kemper, there's good interplay between them. He's a serial killer, but he's also quite a funny human being.
And he's quite childlike, isn't he? Because he was in a mental institution and that's what he says, he was in a mental institution for most of his sort of years where he should have been, like, in adolescence and stuff, which is almost stunted him. And it is a very interesting show. I don't know whether I'll be watch it. You know, if there's nothing else on, I might give it a watch. But I mean, I did enjoy it. I think more than I thought I would.
I also loved episodes 3 and 4, and I would encourage you to stick with it because I do think it's a great show. I will be finishing it. I think the only thing that's stopping me from watching every episode right now is there's an awful lot of it else on, and I kind of feel like I'm going to enjoy this, so I don't want to rush it.